This is a text-to-speech presentation. The original one was in Hungarian language. The text-to-speech software was from imtranslator.com.
Hereinafter I'd like to briefly present the objective of the Standard Credit Application System SHR developed by T-Logic. Currently we will focus on a part of the credit application system, the credit pre-filter. I'd like to give a short high-level overview of the pre-filter, and my colleagues will present the SHR credit pre-filter through a specific business scenario, using the screens of the system. The whole crediting process is a filtering up to the point where the credit is granted. The creditor's objective is to filter out the customers or credit requests that are not financeable. The creditor is typically a bank, but the pre-filtering service can also be useful to other service providers that perform crediting in a wider sense, that is provide for example high-value services with postponed payment. The automatic verifications performed by the SHR pre-filtering system are interesting for this case too. For example, did the customer have a credit that was not repaid? Or is there any procedure currently ongoing against the customer? The objective of the pre-filter on one hand is to decrease time to know, that is if no credit can be granted to a customer, that should be determined as early as possible, saving human efforts. This is supported by the automatic data gathering about the customer and the verifications built on these data. These are available from public company information repository and central debtor information databases. You may also be aware of such public databases in your country. These can be easily attached to the SHR system. The objective of the pre-filter in a positive case is to get to product selection as soon as possible, that is to filter out which product is optimal to sell in the given situation. So, broadly speaking, SHR operates the following way: the system gathers data about the customer, provides support for the verification and validation of the available data, and evaluates business rules using the collected data. My colleagues will show in their presentations the screens where the data gathered about the customer can be displayed and edited, and where the results of the rule-based verifications are displayed. Among the data sources are public company information databases like the OPTE and company database or the KHR debtor list. If data cannot be gathered automatically, it can be entered into the system on the user interface as well. Moreover, there is a possibility to define business rules for the SHR system that build on new information that was not available at the time of system design, therefore it was not added to the screen. SHR is able to analyze the results of such rule evaluations and create dynamic checkboxes on the screen if necessary. As an example, we will present how the Customer Relationship Manager informs the SHR system about payment delays and collections. The structure of the SHR system and its modern SOA architecture enable easy integration with other systems. Consequently, it can be integrated using standard technologies to your local customer databases, accounting systems or other enterprise systems. The more information SHR has about the credit applicant and its financing needs, the wider set of business rules can be evaluated. Until pre-filtering reaches a decision point where it can be declared what credit products the customer is able to obtain. First, the review of the credit applicant is performed, for example based on legal status and operating status and number of financial years already closed, etc. The data gathered about the customer also determines what product groups are available to the customer. For example, currently agricultural funds are available only for customers operating in agriculture. Then the evaluation of the specific customer request is performed. The system checks which products can satisfy the customer's financing needs. The system evaluates which products are available for the customer, and displays the options for the currency, credit term, credit amount and pricing. At this point I'd like to draw your attention to the most essential element of the SHR system's design, the rule-based approach. The main strength of the system is that the business logic of the verifications to be performed on the customer are not described by program code but by business rules. The modification of the business rules can be performed in a much more flexible way and with a shorter reaction time than changing the program code. Moreover, without the participation of the IT areas, directly in the competence of business departments. The SHR system provides this flexibility and also decreases the operational risk caused by frequent modifications. As we will see, by employing business rules throughout the system, which are evaluated automatically, operative risk will be decreased significantly. As the credit application process advances, the same set of rules, for example, product rules or exclusion criteria, are evaluated, but the set of data is constantly expanding and the quality of data is improving during the process. All business rules are enforced throughout the crediting process, and this way it can be determined at the earliest point whether the applicant doesn't comply with the bank's credit requirements. This way time to know is effectively decreased. A significant work capacity of the customer relationship manager is released, while at the same time a higher level of reliability in enforcing the crediting policies is achieved. Consequently, the SHR credit pre-filter is a tool in the hands of business product development, using which they can formulate, test, and introduce new credit products with previously unimaginable speed and flexibility. This is an advantage not only in case of introducing new products. Obviously, the conditions of current products can also be flexibly modified. Just to mention one example, the pricing logic behind the credit products is described in the SHR system by such flexibly modifiable business rules. So, for example, let's assume that the creditor would like to launch a pricing campaign. As part of this campaign, a discount is provided from some charges for a set of products. But this discount should be applicable for certain customer segments only. In the SHR system, this modification can be realized in minutes. It can be tested and rolled out to production immediately, of course scheduled to become effective at the beginning of the campaign period. It's important to mention that the change of business rules doesn't mean changing the parameters of the rules only. That is, it's not a simple parameterization. The logic described by the rule can also be freely modified. My colleague Zoltan Tanchos Jr. will provide in this presentation more details about the rule-based approach in general. He will present a specific example of enhancing the rule, that is, defining the sales conditions of a credit product. This example will demonstrate how the rules of a credit product can be changed in a way that the set of possible applicants are restricted based on their main activity. This way we introduce a totally new condition for the eligibility of the product. This example gives you an idea, but the presentation will give you a detailed answer how different the rule-based approach is from simple parameterization. This is the examination of the customer's exposure. This means that the SHR checks the customer's financing requests in relation to the customer's creditworthiness. Possible financing deals of the customer from other banks are also taken into account. Creditworthiness is not described by a single number, but by a limit structure. The credit products, based on credit risk considerations, can be grouped into limit categories. The limit structure contains the limit amounts defined for these risk categories based on the characteristics of the customer, for example financial status, and based on rules. Since this structure is also described by rules, the changes of the risk policy can be followed flexibly by adjusting these rules. It is like looking at the customer's exposure through a different looking glass. My colleagues' presentations will demonstrate the individual tasks to be performed during credit pre-filtering. Here you can see a schematic overview about these tasks. SHR can organize these tasks into one process, during which the actual tasks will be automatically assigned to the customer relationship manager or decision makers having the appropriate permissions and responsibilities. However, the majority of pre-filtering tasks can be performed by one single customer relationship manager in one run. We've marked these tasks in the little blue boxes. Consequently, SHR can provide support for a customer meeting that can be concluded with a specific product selection. The credit applicant offers collaterals during the meeting. This also determines the type of products that can be applied for. After the product selection, SHR calculates the pricing for the selected products. If the credit request doesn't comply with the crediting rules in all respects, but it stays within a range of acceptable risk, then even exception handling can be requested for it. These possibilities are also described by business rules that determine the necessary approvers of the allowed exceptions. Performing the above tasks, the pre-filtering will be concluded with a product offer and a list of conditions and documents needed for the next steps of the loan process not yet realized in SHR. The list of conditions can be interpreted as a checklist that contains the verifications to be performed on the customer outside the SHR system. If exception handling was necessary during the pre-filtering, the exceptions that need to be approved will also be listed. SHR is also able to use the services of a workflow engine. In this case, the approval of exceptions would be enforced by SHR. The list of documents will contain the documents the customer needs to submit in order to justify its creditworthiness and the collaterals it offered for the selected product. If it is not possible to finance the customer, the system gives the customer relationship manager exact feedback on the condition that caused the customer request processing to fail. If the creditor runs the SHR system with workflow engine support, it can perform further tasks, for example, the receipt of the required documents involving scanning and uploading into the enterprise document store, support for verification and approval tasks with multiple human participants, and even enabling the end-to-end run of the crediting process by supporting contract conclusion and disbursement. Process management is revolutionary in SHR in the sense that not a fixed process run is defined in advance, but a dynamic process is running that continuously aligns itself to the current status of the credit application and distributes the tasks to be performed accordingly. This way the SHR process can react dynamically to unforeseen events and changes. Using SHR pre-filtering system integrated with your workflow engine results in a full support system for the crediting process. If this introduction has captured your attention, please watch our other presentations that show the pre-filtering process in detail based on a specific business scenario. In the presentation entitled Verifications Related to the Credit Applicant, we talk about the systems used for automatic gathering of data related to the credit applicant. Then we enrich these data if necessary and let SHR use rules to evaluate them. Then the affiliated companies are selected automatically from the public database OPTEN and complemented with information provided by the customer. SHR gathers data about them automatically, and evaluates this data using business rules. After that, the system provides the customer relationship manager with a set of credit products available for the customer. This happens by automatic evaluation of the product rules. The full set of product rules stored and managed centrally can be regarded as your central product book. Next, the system sets up the limit structure valid for the credit applicant and determines the bank's exposure towards the credit applicant by automatically querying internal banking systems in the central debtor database SHR for existing deals. These are divided to the corresponding elements of the limit structure, in order to verify that the credit applicant still has enough remaining limit in its limit structure. The result of the pre-filtering is also a pricing calculation that makes even the first customer meeting very effective. As a last step of pre-filtering, the system assembles a list of documents to be submitted in order to continue the crediting. The crediting process can be continued based on this information. We also have a presentation devoted to demonstrating the rule-based approach and its impressive level of flexibility.